This is a camera. You probably knew that already. And with the click of this button, you capture a moment in time. I got my first camera around 7 years ago, mainly to fill up my time and document my travels. And to say the least, during this time frame, my photos changed from these simple snapshots into these. So let's talk about the first steps that you need to take into getting immersed into this art. You see, I think one of the most underrated aspects of photography, or at the least a very undervalued aspect of it, is that it has a very low barrier of entry. It is very easy to get into and it's already quite accessible to most, especially nowadays that smartphones are already quite capable of taking good photos. And in one way or another, we have taken photos with our phone cameras anyway. A big misconception about photography is that you need to have the professional level gear to come away with impressive photos, and these are so expensive that you need to sell your kidneys to get them. But you can have the best gear and still be a terrible photographer, but conversely, you can take away good photos with just a basic set. So I've seen so many talented photographers who have shared impressive works with just photos taken from a phone camera. So when you're just starting out, don't focus too much on gear, and I know from experience it's very exciting to get the best of the best out there, but when you're just starting out, consider the cheaper alternatives like buying older models of the camera or even buy secondhand gear, which can also save you a lot of money. For your first camera, I wouldn't really recommend a specific camera brand. I'm a Sony shooter myself, but I have seen great works from other photographers who use Canon, Nikon, Olympus, Fuji, and other brands. I originally just picked Sony because I kind of like the look and feel of their camera bodies, while I found others to be a bit bulky. I know it's a bit superficial and it's not the outside that matters, but what really is on the inside. But go with what works for you and your budget. A camera that has the best features, the best performance, the best sensor, won't matter at all if you don't feel like carrying it around. You're not going to take photos with it anyway. So what I will recommend is for you to start investing in an interchangeable lens camera, because I think that camera bodies in the past 5 to 10 years haven't really improved too much in terms of image quality for photography. Although there have been some improvements in, let's say, the dynamic range of sensors, which help you retain the details in your shadow and highlight. Most improvements lately focus a bit more about the performance and the video capabilities of cameras, like additional frame rates and autofocusing. So once you get really into photography, just stick with your camera body and then just keep upgrading your lenses, because different lenses can give you flexibility in terms of what you're going to shoot. Wide angle lenses can give you very wide vistas of landscapes. A good prime lens with a wide aperture can give you very creamy bokeh for portraits. And a telephoto lens can help you zoom in towards your details and give you a compression effect in your photos. I originally started out with just a kit lens and a high quality 50mm prime, but lately I have been selling my soul to G Master lenses of Sony. Another benefit to this low barrier of entry is that you can do photography anywhere. You simply just go out, go for a walk on your streets, and explore your neighborhood, which I've realized that whenever I have my camera with me, I observe a lot more closely to my surroundings to identify the shapes and patterns that appeal to me. This is the reason why I've started this street series on this channel, so that I can switch myself on to photography mode whenever I'm out. And you will be surprised that the neighborhood that you thought was boring isn't so boring after all. You just have that mindset that you need to travel very far to come away with impressive photos. Not the case at all. You can also look into more specific genres of photography. For example, if you're into talking to people, you can start portrait photography. Not really completely my thing, as I'll just make people look like this cow. And if nature is something more accessible to you, then you can get into landscape photography, which personally appealed to me the most. So an added bonus to landscape photography is that hiking is a really healthy hobby for fitness and to distress. So your heart is really going to thank you, even though it's broken and you're dead inside. I think I've seen some photographers recommend that when you're starting out photography, is that you should niche down and focus on one or two genres, which I think is terrible advice. Just shoot what you want, and then when you've shot enough, take a look back at your work, and then you'll see which styles or genres you shoot more, and then you will have an idea of what you find more fun. An important part of getting into something is how much you can stay consistent with it and how long you can keep enjoying that activity. So photography is easy to get into, fun as you get to exert yourself creatively and create something that appeals to you. But one thing that makes you continue to pursue this hobby is that there's a growth factor and the concept of challenges and learnings that you can have. For example, when you're just starting out, you can use the automatic mode on your camera, and the camera will determine the correct exposure value for the photo that you're taking, so that you don't need to think about all these camera jargons and settings. Then when you're already more familiar with the concepts, then you can look into exposure triangle or using the manual mode. Another example, maybe you've learned the rule of thirds for composition, but have you already learned about leading lines, natural framing, contrast, depth of field, all those compositional techniques that you can apply in the photos? Have you already learned the basic and advanced editing techniques, for example, masking, dodging and burning, or focus stacking? Photography has a learning curve, but there are apparent steps that you can take to understand what makes a photo good and enhance what you currently have. You'll learn the impact of having different elements in your photos, for example, your subject, your lighting, your composition, and then how you can enhance all those elements together with your post-processing later on. So one way to do this is to look back at old photos and then see what you could have done better. Think about the factors that could greatly affect how an image looks. For example, the time of the day that you shot, or how a specific condition will greatly change the way this photo feels. Or did you unnecessarily include some distractions within the frame? Thought about the spacing in a particular way? This is mostly an internal realization for your own photos, but we also live in a time where information is readily available and even free. So try to find different creators whose styles you want to emulate and then learn from their own photos. You can do this by reading articles online or buying a photography book, and also YouTube photographers have a lot of things and content out there. So a couple of bigger names on YouTube that I watch would be people like James Popsis, who has this unique style of photographing boring things like rubbish bins and still come away with brilliant photos. Pat Kay, whose visual pattern series was something that I thought to be one of the better ones out there. There's Mads Peters, who are going on extremes of minimalist and epic landscape photography. Thomas Heaton, who is so good at storytelling and vlogging. And then there are people like the Photographic Eye and Art of Photography, who breaks down photography concepts and theories and always leaves you with things to digest to get you going and improve your photos. And their channels give out very conceptual tips rather than just creating gear reviews for views, so they're very easy to digest and practice. If my photography appeals to you, then leave in the comments below which concepts you want me to break down so I can make a future video about it. But you have to subscribe. Not gonna lie, one of the things that kept me going is the community aspect in photography. So for the longest time, photographers have been complaining about social media platforms prioritizing short-form video content on top of the photos. But personally, I still really enjoy using these social media platforms because I'm able to connect with different enthusiasts, and some of them I have even met in person. There are also different forums such as for Reddit or Threads these days where you can ask questions, share your photos, and even receive some feedback. An unbiased, constructive critique you can get from the eyes of other photographers is also very valuable. So don't be afraid to receive some constructive criticism from a fresh set of eyes. And let's be honest, an activity is a lot more enjoyable when you have different like-minded people around you doing it with you. So here on YouTube, I am actually looking forward to do some collaborations. For the most part, I think the photography community is highly positive, although there are going to be some haters who will try to drag you down. But mostly, from experience, they will be supportive as long as you continue to engage and support and contribute to the community. And lastly, if you want more photography content, then why don't you click on this playlist where I try to teach the basic concepts in photography. So I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.